winter time is kind of here now. It's only like a high of 38 degrees today. Green looks really, really good on me. The wife bought me this jacket about 4 years ago, totally in anticipation for me rocking this hat. So good job, wifey. So these 4x4s right now, those are to redo this gate situation for Playground 5000. I think that's what I'm gonna call it, Playground 5000. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Today, we're going back in the shed. So let's come on to episode 2. Actually locked the fence when we were out of town last time. So we gotta go around the other way. So let's go do that real quick. Through the wasteland. Let's try this again. There we go. Okay, now to the backyard, to the shed. Kind of why I need to fix that. On our way back now to the shed, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, I told you in episode 1, it's my favorite thing. We're actually talking about 2 things today. Well, it's one thing, but it's 2 different pieces of equipment. And what do you think that might be? Well, we're talking about trimmers, string trimmers, but more importantly, we're going to be talking about the landscape blades. So let's get inside here real quick and get to business. So we're talking about these 2 bad boys here, but before we get going on that, we need to actually know kind of the order of how I acquired these things. Now, years and years ago, in my old house, I've been in this house now for 8 years. Wow, it'll be 9 this October. That's a long time. But I'd bought, like, when I moved into my last house, and I was there for 5 years, I think. I can't really remember. Yeah, I was out there for 5 years. I purchased like a 2-stroke Troy-Bilt weed eater, trimmer, whatever you want to call it. And it did okay up until about 5 years ago. So when that died, I did what anyone else would do. I went and I bought another one, or what I could find like it, but laws changed since then, and I couldn't get one that was the same. I wanted to go with the Troy-Bilt again just because I figured 5-ish years was a good, life expectancy for just a, sub $200 string trimmer. Found out that's not the case. I bought another one and it sucked bad. It couldn't turn the head. Like, the head goes to spinning and it would bog down just under the resistance that it had. So I returned that thing and I got a little grief from them because, like, oh, you put gas in it. I was like, but it doesn't even work. So I went out to my steel dealer, and that's when I bought this beast. It's a FS56 RC, and then I got the blower. We'll talk about that guy later. And for the price I paid for those guys, holy cow, it honestly wasn't much more. I think it was like $300 all in for both of those. I bought the little silver cans of fluid, which got me an extended warranty, which has now since passed, and this guy has been a rock solid just beast the entire time I've owned it. No issues outside of it leaks up in this little area here near the not auto choke, but the easy start function. I thought it was the little vent recall thing they had, but my serial numbers did not line up, so I have no idea on that. But I do have a Chinesium carburetor I bought on Amazon to replace that because I thought it was acting up on me, which it just needed the spark arrestor cleaned out. So the biggest regret when it came to this was I was in a bind and didn't have a whole lot of cash, but I needed a trimmer. So I just went with a dedicated unit. In hindsight, I should have spent like the extra $100 then, because I could have got the Combi unit and had all my attachments and all that, but I wasn't thinking that far ahead. Kind of similar to the shed. You need to kind of think ahead with your purchases, how you're going to use them, and expect the future and kind of expect the unexpected. I'd never expected needing a stick edger or wanting a stick edger, because I was like, oh, you can just twist the head up, and you know, the mow and blow crews do that all the time. And unfortunately, I'm not good enough to edge with a string trimmer. It looks really, really bad. Vanilla Ice would probably cut those into the side of his head for like awesome lightning bolts, but not me, and it's bad. So that was my only regret with purchasing this, was not getting the Combi version of it to where I had the detachable heads. So that brings us now to the landscape blade. So this here, separate add-on component. Now some countries you can buy this as like a all-in-one kit. You can order them through Mariama and get this whole kind of a whole setup, of course different power head, but get that on there. But the kits with these come with different, you know, shaft adapters. You can maybe kind of probably not see one here because these are filthy. I have not had a time to clean anything because I'm still using them regularly, and everything needs a good cleaning, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So I got this a couple years ago, and it is the absolute best tool I have ever used for string trimming. We're going to do a little side-by-side comparison between the two here in a minute, but it is absolutely astounding at what this does. Now, be forewarned though, the purchase of this guy, it's kind of up there. It's a lot of money. It's like $300, but it's $300 worth every last cent. Any interest accumulated on purchase mechanisms, whatever, it is worth it. Do I say it's worth a D word? No, because that's really expensive, but it's close. Oh boy, it's really close. And so now down here, this is my Echo. I picked this up this year because last year I was edging and doing everything solely with this guy here, and I sharpened the blades. You all can watch a video on how to do that. It's not gotten a lot of views. I don't know why. I was only like my 5th video, but I sharpened the blades. It's not too hard. People think, oh, it comes apart easily. It's relatively quick to sharpen if you're good with a file, which you'll be really good with a file after sharpening that. Goes back together easy, and boom. I've only sharpened it that one time, and that was more of, I didn't know if it needed it, and it actually didn't. And I have a spare set of blades as well, because I acquired some of those. So we'll see how that goes. That's why I bought this. This is the Echo PAS 225. I bought this, you know, at the trusty Big Orange, you know, the Orange Home Improvement store. In my location, they're really picky on what they choose to stock. I ended up ordering this online. It was around Memorial Day when they had tons of sales going on. But do the math on it, because like the unit here, like in this base configuration of the PAS power head and the PAS trimmer, stringer, edger, mabob thing, oh, it was like $230, something like that. And then they wanted another $99 or something like that for the edger blade thing that's over here. We're gonna talk about that in another video. So I added those up. I'm like sitting there, I was like, okay, it's 100, it's, you know, it's like $330. So I go on orangestore.com, and what do you know, they have a kit that actually comes with this, comes with this, comes with that, all in one box. And with the specials they had going on, it was like $269. So it's like, you know, that's not stupid, where this was $229 plus $99, $329 versus $269. The only downside is you have to wait for the Orange Store's ship to store service, which is really, really slow. Following the tracking along, this guy, you know, came up from Georgia, went to their Ohio place after sitting here in Knoxville for 2 days, and then in Johnson City for another day. Then it came back down I-40 through Knoxville to go back north up into Ohio or Kentucky, wherever their big distribution hub is. And then it sat there for another week. And then finally, after I was like, hey man, it's been like 12 days since I ordered this thing and it said 2 to 5. They're like, oh, we show it arriving to the store, you know, in a day. Okay. 3 days later, I get the confirmation email that it's there. I actually picked it up the day before because they called me and said, it's in the store. But I didn't get the email that it was there from the site until the day after I picked it up. So good job on there. I know logistics can be difficult. However, it shouldn't be that difficult. So that was the biggest downside, was the weight. But hey, it was like 1994 all over again. I just didn't have to pay with COD. Okay, so let's now get to the nitty-gritty business, and we're going to take a look and see these guys operate pseudo side by side. The best of my masking abilities, are on display here today. All of this stuff was filmed with my GoPro at 120 frames per second, so I can slow it down as much as I need to. The biggest advantage with the landscape blade over a traditional string trimmer, and I think this is honestly where the idea came from, was like roadsides, not flinging things, is the amount of material it kicks up and just, slings everywhere. It's non-existent. There is a little bit. It's not like a string trimmer, hitting one of your dog's yard treasures and, going everywhere. It's not that kind of throw around. There's just a teeny bit, but most everything just kind of lays over flat. And it's really hard to tell up until we get to the pool. The redneck pool that's still there, and I don't like it. Don't like it one bit. But the easiest way to show it is showing it on how much it kicks up. So check this out. So we have this first passage, we're coming up from my little paver extension. Now we're going into around the coal mat edging. And, it's doing its thing. It's kicking a little bit up into the mulch, but that's not really a big deal. It is overgrown right now. There's not really much I, could do about that. It's, this SOS Max grows really freaking fast. But now let's switch over to the actual string trimmer and pay attention to the pool wall. It's freaking everywhere. It's slinging things everywhere. And that right there is the #1 advantage to this landscape blade from just a general use application would be it's not throwing stuff everywhere. You don't have to worry about rocks getting thrown out. You do have to worry about rocks, dulling the blade, but your reel mowing, there's no rocks in your yard. That right there is worth, the cost of entry, just not slinging stuff everywhere. You get a little bit, but it's not shooting stuff 20 yards. Now the other bit is the balance. The balance on this guy here, it's the landscape blade. It's a lot heavier. It adds quite a bit of weight to the end of the unit, but it's positive weight. I don't see it as a negative. It will wear you out over an extended session, but it's nothing that you don't adjust to. But the way it works with the counter rotating blades is it forms this balance as you're going, left and right. Now you can still gouge into things if you tilt it off plane a little bit, but it's not hard to do that. But once you get the hang of it, you can just glide across the surface of the grass. And once you're in the, prime time season, maintaining everything, trimming is very, very fast, very, very efficient, and it gets very, very close. I'm talking half inch, sub half inch. Then when you're going mowing below that, that's where you can start adjusting the angle of the cutting head to get it down a little bit lower, but that's where you have to slow down and be careful because it will, have the opportunity to catch and run away. Now, I was very nervous doing edging with the string trimmer. I went very, very slow. I haven't used one in almost 2 years up until this year. Everything was landscape blade. So having just the torque and just, the dynamics of a string trimmer and using that was a rude awakening. And also I think the echoes spin differently from the steels. Or I don't know, but I can't remember. But it took me a while to readjust, and honestly, I was very surprised at how well I did, going around, doing the comparison here. And frankly, I was honestly surprised. Now, I am using the Black Diamond Echo line. I've used that exclusively for several years before I switched to this guy. I just like the way it works. But I don't know if it probably wasn't that, but it left an acceptable cut. Would I call it, 100% premium? No. it wasn't at the same level as a landscape blade. However, it did give acceptable results. It's something I could live with. It looked okay with, you know, my annual rye. I don't know how it would, the Bermuda though, I haven't used it on that in a while, and just the, you know, the nature of the Bermuda with the stolons and rhizomes, mainly the stolons, you know, if it kind of chucked one of those up, you might run into issues. But as for a cool season, real low trim, the Echo did okay. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, and that's probably solely because I didn't suck at using it, and I was really scared that I was going to butcher everything, and that's mainly why I set everything up in 120. It wasn't to give you all slow motion or any of this stuff. It was to give you all slow motion of me butchering my yard, because that's all you want to see. So here it is in all its glory off the wall, completely covered in filth. I know it's terrible. I really need to wash it up. Maybe I will here after I use it when I finish mowing the yard this afternoon. We'll see, but this is what it is. It's a relatively simple design. Let's, you know, get some of this icky off. But essentially what we have is we have two blades that counter rotate, and they appear loose, but there's a certain way you have to line things up and get them in there, and then they fit in place. But once it gets going in motion, the little latches get everything going and where it's supposed to be. So the biggest, I guess, outside of sharpening, the biggest, you know, kind of that people have about it, because, you know, a lot of people, they don't like, you know, maintenance. It's not a big deal, but they don't want something that requires a lot of maintenance. And this here, you actually, you have to kind of keep track on things. There's a 25-hour/50-hour grease maintenance schedule that goes on with these guys here, and it's every 25 hours for this bit here, and that's accessed via these two bolts here. You remove them, and then there's the 50-hour goes in right here for the main gearbox assembly. You have your main gearbox here, and then inside here is a separate housing that attaches to it with some planetary gears that give you the counter rotation abilities. And this takes, the only downside honestly is the grease it takes. It takes an EP0 grease, and you think that you'd be able to find that, but it's really hard. I usually have to get it from Maruyama Parts, from their website, but it doesn't take a lot. Simply what I do here is, for this bit, I just undo both of them, and I'll go in this one, and I'll just squeeze some in. They have a CC recommendation, but I just squeeze some in until I see some coming out the other side. I'll go on this side and I'll squeeze some in until more comes out that side. I'll put everything back on. So for here, I just give it, you know, good type, you know, squirt. It fills in there. It shoots back out when it's done, and everyone's happy. And it does its thing, and you know, it's 25 to 50 hours. I do it more frequently than that. It's more of, once you get to using this, you can tell by the sound that you can just tell by operation. Like, you know when your engine on your mower sounded funny and you might need an oil change, or you just kind of know. And so it's probably typically between every 15 and 20 hours it gets these, and then, you know, every 30 it gets that. Cool. So hey, that's it, you know, with my string trimmers. We're going to talk more on my Echo over here and give it some love. And, you know, episode number 3, we're going to go into the edging next, trying to get some sort of flow going on and talk more about it then. Landscape blade will be making a return in that as well, because it is also I have used it for edging. Do I recommend it? Yes and no, and we'll talk about the pros and cons of that in that video from the edging standpoint, and you'll get to see it in action, you know, in the various ways you can edge with it. Does it work well as an edger? Yes, it does, but we'll go into a lot of, hopefully more detail than this with it and some more usages. So in closing, yes, I love the landscape blade. I like my string trimmer too. They both serve a purpose. The landscape blade will take you to a next level. It will allow you to, you know, keep things tidy. Biggest downside is it doesn't do 90-degree corners. If you have some of those, you will never be able to trim inside of it. You know, driveways are fine because it goes right across the top. But if you have any elevated landscape edging, you know, borders, whatnots, that end in, you know, with a 90-degree up against something, you won't be able to trim that out. That's really the only downside about it. I'm going to mow the yard now that you can't see because, wow, those highlights are way blown out because it's bright outside and I'm in the shed. But, oh well, you'll just have to see that later. I gotta start planning that fence and start working on that. I'm gonna do a special video just on that secretly because I didn't. So with that, hey, it's Mike. I'm Real Low Dad. I really hope you like Landscape Blade. I love it. It's my favorite tool ever. And we will see you again in episode number 3.